can imagine my delight when last Sunday we drove down Chicago Avenue to find this place. And there on the bell tower was this enormous banner that said, "In the City for Good." The reason that pleases me so much is I'm the primary author and editor of the ELCA initiative from 1997 to 2008 called "In the City for Good." So, I felt instantly that Laura and myself, are in the right place. For we have been committed to urban ministry all of our ministry, all of those years. So thank you for inviting us, and additionally, being such a welcoming and eager place is what I would say in my first assessment of Calvary Church, and for your commitment to being in the City for Good. So we are entering into the season of Pentecost, and it's a long season. Today is really kind of the first Sunday after Holy Trinity. And Pentecost is a long journey. And yet, as we gather together here for the next 2.5 months together, I want to remind you that the journey of faith is a long one. The journey of faith is that I hope that you will be more mature tomorrow than you are today in the faith, because you are open to what God's Spirit is doing in the world and doing in your own life. So the journey of Pentecost, the journey of faith, the journey of life is never a destination as far as I'm concerned. It's always in process. It's always maturing, I hope. Although it's been my experience sometimes that after people finish Sunday school, they kind of stop growing in their faith. And so that so many Lutherans, and probably other denominational people as well, are roaming the earth at age 45 with a 6th grade understanding and level of maturity about faith. We hope in the weeks that we're here to continue what Pastor Brad does in educating and illuminating the Word, that it becomes more and more part of who we are, each one of us. Less about church and more about life and living as Jesus would have us live. Creating, if you would, every one of us being a nut for Jesus. For that's what we get this morning in the text. In just a few chapters in Mark, Jesus has done some remarkable things. He has gathered some disciples. He has been blessed with the Spirit. He has done some healings. He even encountered a leper and wasn't freaked out by it, because in that time, certain leprosy was a very traumatic, very difficult disease. For those of you who don't know it and are Scandinavians like me, it was originally called Hansen's disease. We'll leave it at leprosy. So Jesus encountered a leper, and that didn't freak him out. And so he's done all of these wonderful things, and then he goes home. And when he goes home, his family is saying, yeah, he's done some radical things. He's said some really outlandish things. He must be nuts. If the text was being written today by one of us, rather than saying he's out of his mind, we would probably say something a little bit more gently like, he's nuts. So the question for us as we read this lesson is that Jesus has done some things. And those things have been things that would make life better for somebody. He's healed somebody. He's fed somebody. He's loved somebody. He's talked with a leper and given them hope, if not full healing. We don't know. But all of those things that he's done so quickly, you'd think people would go, oh, that's good. He's done those wonderful things. But already his family, no, maybe he's a little nuts. Because for some people, it's so countercultural, you see. He's taught with such authority that they're worried that he might be an agent of the devil because he is so articulate and so powerful within the community. So the issue for us as we read the text is, are we living as if we're nuts for Jesus? Are we on the side of those who need to be cared for? Are we on the side of those in need? Are we taking care of the widow and the orphan? Are we loving the unlovable? Are we doing those things that will make other people say of us, well, they're a little nuts? Those people who love everybody and embrace everybody, really? They're a little nuts when they do that. But you see, you and I don't have the option of deciding which pieces of Jesus we're going to accept and which we're not. We don't have that option. We have to take Jesus as he is, because we lift up his name, we praise him, we give him honor and glory in our worship, hopefully in our lives. So we can't say, well, this part of Jesus I like and this part I don't. And let me tell you a story that's a great example of this. A number of years ago, I worked for the ELCA as the Regional Director for Mission in the Mid-Atlantic. I had a meeting on the West Coast, and back in the day, in the 90s, sometimes you could get bumped up to first class, and so I did. Not of my request, nor was the ELCA paying for a first class ticket, unless anybody's taking notes. It just happened to me, and I said, sure, I'll take it. And well, you sat down. And of course, if you've ever traveled first class, you know that you might get a glass or two or three or four of wine. So, being the Scandinavian that I am, the wine must be free. Sure, I'll have some. So even before we take off, there's a glass of wine. And so I'm thrilled about that. Well, there's a lady sitting beside me, and she doesn't have a glass of wine. And before long, she sees me open up some papers, and I guess she sees Lutheran on the letterhead or something like that that clicks for her. And so she asks me what I do, and I tell her that I start new churches for the ELCA on the East Coast. Well, she said, what denomination is that? And I said, Lutheran. Well, I didn't know you could drink if you're a Lutheran. And so rather than defending Lutheranism, what I did is I brought Jesus into it. And I said, well, you remember one of the first miracles that Jesus did. And this was an Episcopalian woman. You think she'd understand. I said, the first miracle that Jesus did is he turned water into wine. And this is what the Episcopalian woman said. I would have thought better of him if he hadn't done that. Really? So when Jesus says, go and love the unlovely, go and take care of the widow and the orphan, pray for those who are going to hurt you, pray for your enemy, is our tendency to say, well, I really would have liked Jesus better if he wouldn't have said that. It would have been nicer if Jesus said, go to church, be a good person, and all is well. But in fact, Jesus wants more of us. In no uncertain terms, Jesus wants our lives. Because it's our lives that are far more important in the world, spreading the nutsiness of Jesus than anything else. Our church attendance is wonderful. It's great to come to church and to be fed and have community with each other. But the real energy of being a follower of Jesus on the journey of faith is what happens when you go back out into the world and you meet the world in its dimension.